Well, it's a myth, it turns out, but it's kind of a happy myth. It's just that it's kind of clunky too, that supposedly this holiday season, every holiday season is automatically just incredibly joyful. But in fact, that's not really the case. Not everybody feels like celebrating the holidays because it turns out that holiday season is a time often of more stress, not less stress. And it's not just relationships, it can be the length of the day shortening, financial concerns, any number of things. And we're going to talk about that. How do you overcome sort of this holiday blues phenomenon if you're in the grips of it?
We all think, "Oh, our family's not perfect," right? And we think other families are perfect. Maybe we think they have different holidays than we do, but I think in general, most families struggle with the holiday season. And especially when somebody's lost a loved one and it's the first time that they're going through the holiday season without them, that can be extremely stressful. And then add on top of that, like you said, finances. How much are we spending on gifts? Where are we spending the holiday? Is there going to be a big argument if we don't go to the mother-in-law or the mother's house? So, yeah.
Well, if you're feeling that way, first of all, you're not alone. It's like 9 in 10 adults say that about the holidays, that there's added stress. A lot of people worry about dough. A lot of people worry about money. Like 4 in 10 say that their stress level rises. And it's 9 in 10 say that concerns like money and other things, tend to bother them. But the stress really registers for like 40% of people. And so I think we need to arm ourselves with strategies in order to deal with the fact that, yes, listen, people are narrative creatures. I always talk about this. We're storytellers. And so we tend to think of our lives according to calendars, special days, and special people. So if you've lost someone you love, if a marriage has ended, if sadly illness has taken someone, then on the holidays, as much as you're looking forward to the gathering, perhaps with folks, and tons of people do, you're also thinking, man, wouldn't it be nice if this person were there? And you know what? I don't know that we'd want to change that because that memory, that connection is a bit of a miracle when you think about it. Because if that relationship isn't there or that person isn't there and you're still thinking about that person, yes, there's a sense of melancholy. However, it's an amazing thing that those connections survive essentially eternally. And they do, they visit us again because why? Because people's stories matter. Everybody's story really does matter.
Yes, it does. And if you come from a big family like I do with there were 6 kids and of course our parents. And I think the pressure was always there to, what the holiday should be like, how it should be celebrated, instead of the reality of what it will be like, which often is different than what it should be like.
Well, that's true. And, this idealized version of what it's going to be like, there are a lot of facets to this. We could do 3 hours on this. We won't. Don't worry. Anybody listening, don't worry. We're not doing 3 hours. But nonetheless, you have these outsized expectations about even the day itself, how fun it's going to be, how perfect. You make things for that day, you buy presents, you anticipate the reactions to people to what they're going to receive. And sometimes it doesn't match what you're expecting. I think letting go of some of those expectations is smart and saying, really the goal here is just spending time. We just want to spend time with each other. We acknowledge that there are going to be glitches, that there are going to be expectations not met. And you know what? 25 years I practiced psychiatry. Exactly nobody, exactly no one ever came to my office and said, yeah, the reason I hold this person in esteem or I feel like this person disappointed me was, well, it was Christmas, the gathering, or Thanksgiving, the gathering. No, really. It's just about spending time and connecting with people. It could be really full of glitches. The food could be cold. The gifts could be not exactly what you wanted. The bottom line is, do you feel loved? Do you feel that the people around you have regard for you? And do you love the people that you're communing with? That's the gift of the holidays. It gathers people together. We're not solitary creatures, we human beings.
No, we're not. But interesting you bring that up because I was speaking with a friend the other day and she mentioned that, well, they have a large family as well. But she said, even though I'm around a lot of people and we have a lot of friends over, I always still feel a little bit lonely. And I kind of wondered what that really meant. But we talked a little bit more, and she said it's hard because her mom isn't there anymore. And so it leaves a big gap, right? And so even though all these people are around, that feeling of loneliness is still present. So, what are some insights that you have as a life coach to give somebody who's in that situation?
Well, I'll tell you, here's an insight because I was thinking of it just as you were sharing that story. We tend to avoid uncomfortable things as humans. Freud talked about the pleasure principle that people tend to move toward things that they find pleasurable away from things that they find painful. And even anticipating that a topic might be painful, we tend to avoid it. However, I would say, though you may be missing someone, you might say it. It's not going, by the way, to lead people to scatter in six different directions in the room and isolate you so that you're like, wait, I was saying I miss it. Now I miss more people. That's not going to happen. More likely than not, you'll have somebody who asks you more about that. Well, what else have you been thinking about your mom or your grandfather or your friend? Or they may share their own memories and what they're thinking and feeling. Those are moments of potential deep connection that we avoid far too much, not only on the holidays, but in life. And if you can say of a gathering on Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever it might be, you know, I feel like I really connected with that person because I was able to share my heart. That's a huge, huge win. And being that person often just requires, here's another tip from the life coach, asking the next question. So people test the waters. They'll say, oh, you remember when grandma was here? How that what and people will tend to say, oh yeah, that was really nice and leave it at that. But you're giving somebody a gift if you say, what do you remember about it? Like, what were your two favorite memories? Now, there's no third rail. It's not taboo to talk about it. Now, it's a warmer topic. And really, you're resurrecting that memory and communing around it. That's such a great gift to someone to say, hey, tell me a little bit more about it because they want to. I promise when people bring things up and it's an emotional topic, they don't want to be helped to say less. They want to be helped to say more.
That's extremely insightful. And I think you're right. Once you kind of get started on talking about family memories, they all seem to come up and then everybody engages as well. So I could see where just asking that one person would make a difference. But what about this? What about all the conflict that happens? And we have conflict,
Mm,
during the year, right? I mean, things come up and then here comes the holidays. And to me, when you're in that room with everybody present, they seem to become more elevated.
it's true. I mean, first of all, there's just more volume. There's more. There may be a little wine. There's a sense of not necessarily having to watch what you say, and you can be disinhibited a little bit. My advice is stay away from the topics that could lead to conflict. There's just no reason to go there. And they're so attractive, they're magnetic. Talking about politics or I don't know, they say religion, but certainly politics, certainly old conflicts, arguments from the past. You know what? It's a good day to decide I'm just here to help other people feel good. And so I'm going to listen more than I opine about things. And I'm going to avoid, it's okay. as much as I think we should talk about warm memories and encourage people to open their hearts, I think dancing around politics and past skirmishes is super smart. No need to go there. Go there another day, if at all. But you don't have to bring it to Christmas or Hanukkah or New Year's.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I do think it's hard sometimes for people to leave that behind when everybody's around because frequently you want everybody else in the room to know and to remember maybe what happened to you, something some family member did to you that you thought was bad. And so you want to bring people may want to, I won't say you, people may want to bring that up to get attention or to draw attention back to it. Maybe perhaps because they haven't resolved it in their own life. And so that seems like the best time to bring it up.
Well, listen, you've got all the usual suspects on board during the holidays. You might have in laws, siblings, your adult kids or kids, their friends. And there's a lot of emotion going around. People tend to compare their lives with those of others. So you can have lots of even unconscious, but certainly unspoken, deep feelings about, oh, this one's doing better than I am, or this was said 3 Christmases ago and we never processed it. Again, I think if you extend people the benefit of the doubt and you go to these events as a healer, don't just go as a person. Don't just go as, hey, I'm going as myself. I'll say what I think. Don't go there really saying, I really want to be helpful and I want to contribute to the joy of the season. And is that a little bit of acting? It's okay. Yeah. It's a little bit of acting, but we all tend to take on roles. And if the one that you're going to take on is going to be a really healing force during the holidays this season, I'm going to sidestep conflict. I'm going to invite people to say more about their hearts. I'm going to ask them questions that allow them to talk about themselves because people do like to talk about themselves. Look at me, I'm talking all the time. But yeah, it's a good thing to do that and to take on that role.
Yeah. So now what about this? So there was some data that came out that said that parents are in law and specifically more often mothers in law are the major triggers for holiday issues. Oh, and when they look at studies over time, couples that have issues with chronic tension with the in-laws, they have lower marital satisfaction and a higher likelihood of getting a separation or a divorce sometime down the line. So, what is it about that dynamic and how can we go about that during the holidays to make it better?
Right. Well, so it's certainly true that there are particular flashpoints in relationships. And I'm not surprised that what would be considered to be a cliche, like my mother in law, ends up being that there's some data behind that, that people have strong feelings about their mothers in law and mothers, fathers. We grow up into adults and we're not sure how to deal with the continued parental input. I think it's a good thing to, again, go armed with the notion that when you feel yourself kind of getting a little bit heated under the collar, it's good to recognize it, to think to yourself, it's happening. And rather than being drawn in to conflict, maybe you go the other direction. You say, I just love it when you feel free to say this stuff because we're at home, we're family, and it gives me some joy, actually. Other people it might annoy, not me. Or if you can't do that, you go to another room, you go to a neutral corner. There's lots to do during a holiday gathering. It's okay to go to another room. It's okay to talk to somebody else. It's okay to go pour yourself some water and just sit down and also take in the room. Be an observer. You can be a participant observer. You don't have to be the life of the party, which is another lesson because a lot of people feel a lot of stress. They're like, I'm going to have to come out of myself and be larger than life. No, you don't. It's okay. You can be that person who listens more and sits and enjoys the scenery a bit.
Yeah. I think honestly that one of the best places to be is to be the observer. I mean, you obviously need to participate in conversations to some extent, but I think it's always interesting just to sit back and watch the dynamics of families or friends whenever you're at a holiday party like that. It's very telling to me. And it gives me the opportunity to say, hey, I see that person's also standing by themselves. Are they lonely? Should I go talk to them? Or, hey, wow, I see all those dishes scattered around. Maybe I should start picking those up. So my mother in law didn't have to do it when everybody was gone. So I think
Yep.
things like that, just observing what's happening around you can actually help to lift somebody else up, but it also I found it to be uplifting too.
I think that's great advice for sure. And I'll tell you, it's also the case that because there's this performance anxiety, there can be a backlash. There's plenty of data that suggests simply feeling as though you have to be on all the time and be at your best can bring about stress in and of itself. And I think I'd be wrong not to mention that it's also, well, it's winter, it's the holiday season, days are shorter, your mood might be low. By the way, we do have our product called For Better Mood, which is available at forvitahealth.com, only because sometimes people do need a mood lift during this season. And so if you're one of those people, this is all natural. It's made in FDA registered facilities in the United States for better mood. I'll put in that plug for that. But back to our topic at hand, you can almost forecast who at the party or the event or the gathering is going to be that trigger. You know it. You already know. And so what you do, I think, is you don't tempt fate. You're cordial. You greet the person. You don't have to make a scene of avoiding them. But you could be scarce and spend more time with other people because you know what the flashpoint's going to be. So why tempt fate? There are lots of people, we hope, at your holiday party. And if you're not going to one, by the way, that's a special challenge. But you can prepare for that too, whether it's getting 3 books that you want to dive into a little bit yourself, whether it's deciding I'm going to take a walk or I'm going to get some sort of special meal that I really like. You got to prepare because I'll tell you the expectation, as I said, that you're going to have such a wonderful day. Well, that's a tall order, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah, that is true. I think there's probably more arguments in the car either before or after going to a holiday dinner probably than almost any other time of the year. But one other thing that comes up, and especially I think in traditional families where women do most of the cooking and the planning and the shopping, and then the man in the house feels like he's overscheduled and there's a lot going on that perhaps he's not into. Perhaps he would rather be watching a football game or doing something else. And so there's this idea that there's a different load during the holidays for men and women. Different. I'm not saying one is more or one is less. They just look at it differently. So one of the things that I think might be helpful is if you're a husband, a wife, or you're in a relationship, to have those discussions around the holidays to say, this is what's really bugging me right now, or this is what we're going to do when we go to my mother's house or your mother's house. And we already know this is going to be an issue. So let's talk about it ahead of time so that you don't get those wounds that you can potentially come out of after the holiday season.
I think that goes, in fact, in the category of being a team. If you are with someone as opposed to alone, then discussing and saying, let's really team up this season. We want people to have a great time. We want to be part of the great time. I know that I'm going to have to kind of spend a little less time with this person because I tend to get into a little bit of conflict. Then you're prepared because, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, sister, brother, whatever, friend, whatever it might be, can be there as your wing person and gently take you by the arm and bring you over to the hot chocolate if that's what you're going to do. And the other thing that occurs to me is holiday movies. We underestimate the power of entertainment and holiday movies to really set the tone. So if you're not attending a gathering, if you feel somewhat alone, get your content ready. And sometimes some of that content can be, hey, there's this great film that I want to watch again. and maybe it makes you laugh, maybe it makes you reminisce, whatever it might be, but that can still be part of your celebration.
Do you remember, it just made me think in this, the movie, I think it was called Five Christmas,
I
when
didn't see it.
the couple does not want to go to her parents or his parents for Christmas. So they make up this excuse that they're going or they were going on a trip. Then their flight gets canceled, but they don't want to tell anybody that their flight canceled. Well,
Wow.
it's quite funny, but the family ends up seeing it on the news, seeing them on the news at the airport. And so it creates a whole other debacle about family issues. It's quite interesting, but I think also quite revealing sometimes. You'd rather go off to Hawaii than go to a big family gathering.
Well, it's true. And again, what's some of the reason that they're so tough, these gatherings? We think we have to perform. And I would say tilt in the direction of authenticity. That doesn't mean you're going to scream at anybody or pick a fight. That's not the authenticity I mean. Self revelation, if you're self revealing. And it's okay to say that to people. It's okay to even say the holidays, I find them kind of tough. Do you? That's okay to say because you're going to connect with people. That's really why you're in the room. It causes stress just to be in a room, by the way, where you have the potential to connect with other human beings and it isn't happening. That causes stress. So take the opportunity to really find out how life is for folks and be honest yourself and talk a little bit about your challenges.
Well, another one of the challenges, and I'm sure as a psychiatrist for 25 years, you counseled people on this, and as a life coach now, but you mentioned you have to be a team. But what happens if a person feels torn because if, say, the woman stands up for her husband, are her parents going to be disappointed or vice versa? How does the spouse feel if that happens?
Right. And I think that this is a special situation and worth previewing, like preview of coming attractions. Think through what might unfold. And maybe you avoid that discussion, or maybe you already plan for it and say, well, if my dad says that and gets under your skin, I'm going to say, now, Dad, listen, it's the holiday. We're not going there. I love you, right? But we're not going there. So you got to have a bit of a proactive plan and look forward to these events, but know that you're not alone in also experiencing stress and conflict during them. So that I think our sort of summary would be that these are amazing potential days, right? That's why we have this whole show, Feel Amazing Daily. These are special, potential, amazing days. And you can read about these things, holiday stress and the rest of your life and natural remedies and healthcare and the rest at our site, feelamazingdaily.com. And remember, it's a tough season. And so if you need a bit of a mood boost for better mood at 4vitahealth.com, for better mood at 4vitahealth.com. And also you can take a look at For Great Sleep at 4vitahealth.com also, because it's tougher sometimes to sleep around this time. And again, the reason that we do this is so that people can enjoy their lives, lead happier and healthier lives. And there's a tremendous amount of information at our site, Feel Amazing Daily. And we always end with that wish. We hope that you feel amazing every single day.
This program is for educational and informational purposes only and is not medical advice. Consult a healthcare provider before adding supplements to your diet. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The products discussed are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.